Tonight, we're going to talk about why the 49ers will have success in the second half. And has Kyle Shanahan redeemed himself? We're going to talk about that, plus much more next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. It's Tuesday, which means I got my guy, So Real, Suneil, in the flower outfit that I love so much. Suneil, you were like, do you remember that show? You're old like me. Do you remember that show, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
Yeah, I do. I
That's you
love
right
that game.
now. I don't even know where you're at. You're always on the move. It's the wildest thing. Where are you this week,
I'm
Sunil?
actually back in Ohio in the same place I was last Tuesday, which
Okay.
is pretty funny, man. So I wore this because it's really nice fall weather out here, and I just wanted to blend in with the trees.
You've been traveling a lot though, because you did go to the 49ers Rams game on Sunday. Am I correct?
Absolutely, man. I
Okay.
did go to Levi South. Let me tell you, Jesse, have you been to a 49er game at Levi South?
No, I have not.
Okay. This was my first time. Um and it's different from, unless you're there, you don't realize how much, like, all of that noise about it's 55%, 45, that's a lie. It is literally 75 to 80% 49er fans. I went with my best friend. He's an Eagles fan. And he put on a 49ers jersey because I was like, bro, you got to do this for me. He's like, all right, no doubt, bet. He was just amazed at how much love he was getting because he was wearing a 49ers jersey. And he was like, Suneil, he's like, I've never seen an away stadium look like this. He's like, I could never imagine being at an Eagles game and there being this many of the opposing jerseys. He's like, you're running into the end zone and people are booing you at a home game. It was hilarious, bro. Like, it's definitely it's a spectacle, man. It was crazy.
You told me that they definitely pump in a lot of crowd noise too,
Oh,
right?
bro, it's insane. Like, it's like, literally, if there was certain periods where they forgot to pump in the crowd noise and it was silent. Like, literally, it was like they have this like thing where it's like one of the players and it's like, let's get loud, and they forgot to put the noise on and it was just silent. It
That's
was
so
crazy.
sad, man. That's so
Yeah.
sad. Well, it's sad for them, not sad for us. Fans were losing it all over Twitter too. I retweeted this guy losing his mind on the 49ers taking over their stadium. I don't know. I think it's hilarious. Absolutely love it. I'm glad you got to experience it in person. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about a few of the things that happened not only in that game, but just overall with the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers did make a move today. I have talked a little bit about what my thoughts are on it. I'll rehash those real quick. They traded Jeff Wilson Jr., and there were some other moves that it sounds like they were in on. Suneil, I do have to say this because a couple weeks ago, you were on the show. I think it was 2 weeks ago. And we had talked about trades we wanted the 49ers to make. You said you wanted them to trade for Christian McCaffrey, which, boom, bingo. 3 days later, that's what happened. Awesome. I said I wanted the 49ers to trade for Daron Payne. We didn't hear anything. Then all of a sudden today, the report comes out from Adam Schefter himself that the 49ers are looking into trading for Daron Payne. And I'm thinking to myself, are we going to go into tonight's show and be able to celebrate not only getting Christian McCaffrey, which is who you said you wanted 2 weeks ago, but then also get Daron Payne, who I said I want? How crazy would that have been? First of all, let's just stop there. How dope would that have been if we could have made that happen?
They should just literally get us on payroll at that point because clearly they're listening to the show.
Yeah, I think that would be clear as mud, for sure that they are. Okay, but they did trade Jeff Wilson Jr. today for a 5th-round pick. People were kind of all over the place with this. I do understand not wanting to lose Jeff Wilson Jr., but let's be clear. The 49ers did not have a choice in losing Jeff Wilson Jr. They had to get rid of a running back today at the trade deadline, assuming that Mitchell is coming back healthy, which it sounds like all indications are that he will be back after the bye week. You cannot risk putting any of these running backs on the practice squad because they can get swooped up by another team. You're not going to carry 5 on the active roster. So somebody has to be the odd man out. My guess is the guy that should be the odd man out is a guy who's not under contract after this year and is the oldest running back on the team. That's Jeff Wilson Jr. He fits both of those molds. To me, the trade made a ton of sense. Somebody hit my DMs about a week ago and asked if I thought they would trade Jeff Wilson Jr. I said, yes, I do believe they will. He asked what I thought they would get for compensation. I said that I believe they would ask for a 4th, but take a 5th. That's exactly what happened. I have no issue with the trade. So, 2-parter for you. 1, how do you feel about that trade? And 2, would you have liked to seen them make any other moves, big or small, at the trade deadline?
Yeah, I mean, look, the way you're breaking it down, Jesse, it's hard to argue with that. The reality is obviously with Christian McCaffrey coming in, that clearly, and Elijah Mitchell getting healthy, that clearly drops Jeff Wilson Jr. to the 3rd option. And to me, Jesse, I think this was more of a trade that the 49ers were doing what's right by Jeff Wilson Jr. more than maybe the compensation that they're getting. And what I mean by that is I think there's even though he's not under contract and odd man out, and maybe you lose some of these rookies if you move them to the practice squad, like a TDP or whatnot. Reality is obviously Elijah Mitchell doesn't stay healthy. There's it makes sense to keep him there just because if Elijah Mitchell goes down or CMC goes down or whatever, to have Jeff Wilson there, he's clearly better than TDP and Jordan Mason at this point, right? So going all in on this season, which clearly they have by the CMC move, you could argue that, hey, maybe you should have kept Jeff Wilson Jr. till you can prove that Elijah Mitchell could stay healthy. However, keeping him there just in case isn't what's right by Jeff Wilson Jr. He needs to play for his next contract. He needs to get some run. And I think this was kind of that kind of move for the 49ers, which they've shown to do is do right by their players. And going to a system that he already knows and with the coach that he's already familiar with, I think puts Jeff Wilson Jr. in a very good position because they got rid of Edmonds, I'm sorry. So he'll be like the bona fide number 2 back there behind Mostert. I think that they were giving him the opportunity to earn another contract after this, which, you got to go hats off. I think the players look at things like that when they decide what teams they want to choose. And I think that's some goodwill for Jeff Wilson Jr. more than maybe it was football sense for the 49ers.
Yeah, and that's a possibility. I also just I guess I just don't know how you keep 5 running backs. You can't have 5 active on the roster.
Sure.
And once you practice squad somebody, they're essentially a free agent.
Yeah,
you can't protect them.
I think they could have practice squad TDP, and I don't know if I don't.
But are you going to do that with your 3rd round pick? What if on the off chance somebody picks him up and then you spend a 3rd round pick for him to get away for no?
Well, what determined?
Hmm?
What happened to their last 3rd round pick from last year?
Yeah, I get that. And that's just it, is in the future, we may say, okay, well, TDP sucks. Mason sucks. They could have kept Jeff Wilson Jr., which sure, hindsight may be 2020, but at this very moment, imagine being Shanahan and Lynch. You just spent a 3rd round pick on TDP. You got to see if he's going to pan out.
Right.
You got Mason, who's basically the young Jeff Wilson Jr. You got to see if that can work. And he's 4th on the depth chart. Hopefully you don't ever get that far. Mitchell was clearly the best running back on this team coming into the season. And then you traded for CMC. There's just not really much they could have done, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, whatever the justification is, it probably is the right move long term for the 49ers, just because of all the things that you said. But to answer the second part of your question, should they have done more? I really expected them to do something along the defensive line. And I think that they were eyeing maybe a bigger move if it was out there. So I think the 49ers would have done something major if something major were to come across, uh, in the sense like I think they were buyers in this trade deadline, and they were seeing who were going to be the sellers and who they could have snagged something, whether it be like maybe a center or something along the offensive line. But I did expect them to bring in some kind of depth at the defensive line, especially in the interior defensive line. And the fact that they didn't was kind of a surprise to me.
Yeah, I think that they really did effort on that. From what I understand, it was Payne, which would have been a huge get, but then there was another defensive tackle that they were trying to acquire that was on that level. I don't know who. And so yeah, they tried. And not only did they tried to make a big splash move. That also makes you wonder if they were in on a defensive tackle. That probably tells us Kinlaw is a guy that you're not going to be able to rely on for the rest of the season. So you got to look into that and future as well. And that tells you they might be in the market for a free agent defensive tackle as well. Sue gets brought up a lot. I think, Richardson's out there as well. There's a couple other guys that are available. They may be in the market for that. But yeah, if they had done anything, that's what I would have wanted to see them do. I think a lot of people were looking at corner as well. Jackson from Washington, I think people wanted them to look at that, but he's making a lot of money. If he doesn't pan out, I mean, that could end up looking really, really ugly. You look at what the Steelers did. I mean, they basically were able to trade, I think, Claypool for a second and then get like a fifth off to get Jackson. So they traded a luxury piece for a good draft pick and brought in that trade makes sense for them. For the 49ers, I don't think Jackson makes that much sense, especially if on the off chance that Verrett can get healthy and play after the bye week, then it really doesn't make sense for them to go get a Jackson, in my opinion.
And, all of the talk, if you talk about, people that are for Trey, the biggest mistake that the 49ers did was not give him enough run his rookie year, so that he had that experience under his belt. The 49ers have some good young corners, right, in Lenore and Womack. If you keep bringing guys in to play, that's taking away reps from them. And reality is, the cornerback position with the money that they paid Mooney Ward, a guy like Verrett, if he plays well the second half of the season, he might be priced out. Emmanuel Mosley might be priced out, right? Eventually, you got to develop some of these other corners. Otherwise, you're constantly going to revert back to a weak secondary. And it's been nice to have secondary pieces that you could count on. It's been the first time in a while that we've been able to not worry about the secondary, especially the corners. And I think I would like to keep it that way. So I'd rather develop a Lenore, develop a Womack, give them some run, and then hopefully Verrett comes back in and puts those guys on depth.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's get into this next one. 49ers had a huge win on Sunday, owning the Rams yet again. And there's been a lot of talk about Kyle Shanahan. A lot of people are saying he should be fired, traded. I said, let's see how the season plays out. But if it doesn't go well, then I have no qualms moving on from Kyle Shanahan. They won a game, a much needed game, probably a must win game for this season. Do you believe Kyle Shanahan has, we'll do it like Dumb and Dumber, has totally redeemed himself?
So I don't know. I mean, I didn't really think that he was. I mean, I was given some fair criticism, the fact that they had so many stars and they hadn't scored, or they weren't scoring at the clip that they should be scoring. But I also was the guy that said CMC will fix this offense. And last week, I know there was people that CMC came in, the offense wasn't fixed, and I'm like, yo, relax.
Way too early,
right? we got to see what CMC does to this offense when he's actually got the playbook for a whole week, full practice, all that kind of stuff. The guy threw for a touchdown, caught a touchdown, and ran a touchdown. Like, if you're telling me that this
Full
piece
hat trick.
can't fix this offense, you're ridiculous. Jesse, when have we ever felt that if Debo was down, this team could still score over 30 points if Debo wasn't playing?
Yeah, never.
Never. And that's what the defense did. Now, the funny thing is the Rams are actually one of the better defenses that the 49ers have played. So to be able to score 31 points, like, I'm not saying the Rams are top 10, but they're like middle of the pack when it comes to defenses. I think, I put up a stat on Twitter that 7 of the 9 games that the 49ers play in the second half of the season are all defenses that are on the bottom 10 of points allowed. So the 49ers have also had their best scoring games. 2 out of the 3 of them have been against defenses that are in the bottom 10 of scoring. So the 49ers offense, I think, is going to be looking very, very good. Not only because I think that CMC changes the offense, but also, the level of play that they're going to be playing. I think I saw some stat that they're playing the 4th easiest schedule in the second half of the season. So it's set up for the 49ers to finish really, really strong. As far as answering your question to redeem, does Kyle Shanahan redeem himself? I think the reality is there was just this false narrative that Shanahan doesn't need talent at the running back position. I think that's what really has changed. Like, yeah, Shanahan could do well with certain types of running backs that maybe have been looked over by other teams, but give him a bona fide star like CMC, and this is what the team is capable of. I think it's going to make Jimmy look very, very good. I think Jimmy should, whatever contract he gets next season, he should give like 5-10% to CMC because it's going to make him look way, way better than he probably is going to be at whatever team he does. But I think it's more now all of a sudden at every single level, Kyle Shanahan has what he needs to really, really be able to be explosive. And I don't know, like, I would find it hard pressed that anybody with a good offensive mind couldn't be successful with the type of talent on the 49ers. But I think it's more that. But yeah, I think Kyle Shanahan's play calling has been fine throughout the season. I think the execution has been bad. Now we got to see if the execution was good, what it's capable of.
For sure. But we also saw it against the Rams, which Kyle Shanahan, 21% of his wins as a head coach have come against those exact Rams. They're 9-3 against the Rams, and I think 34-43 against the rest of the NFL. So, no, he hasn't redeemed himself. No. But I'm not sure that he had a lot of redeeming to do. They have to bounce back this season. They have to make the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. But I think to fully have to redeem yourself, they would have had to have not made the playoffs this year, and then we'd be getting into next year. Okay, this guy's on the hot seat. It's his last year to figure it out with Trey. Can he redeem himself this season? He's redeemed the record to get it back to a manageable spot. I don't think 3-5 this year would have been manageable. Thankfully, the get right team, the slump busters, the Rams, were in Levi South, and they were ripe for the picking. They were the team that the 49ers needed in that moment. And so the 49ers took advantage. They did what they were supposed to do. They've got this to a manageable spot for the second half, and they should make the playoffs. But no, I mean, I don't think anybody's thoughts of Kyle Shanahan should change based off of one win against a team that they always beat. I'm sorry. Now, Christian McCaffrey, however, that's a whole different deal. Has he fixed the offense? Yeah, I think that's possible because he just opens everything up for the rest of the team. And Jimmy Garoppolo knows he can go through every single progression with confidence, knowing that if something happens and somebody's not open, or he starts to feel that pressure backside, the clock starts to wear thin in his head, that he can dump it off to one CMC and something good is going to happen. He's never had that in his career. There are no excuses for Kyle Shanahan, Jimmy Garoppolo, any of them. They have more than enough. They have more talent on their side than any other coach quarterback duo in the league, in my opinion, at this very moment. All pro wide receiver, all pro running back, all pro tight end, all pro left tackle. What more do you need to make this function for the rest of the year? So,
All
has he
pro,
redeemed himself? No, but I don't know what quote unquote redeeming he had to do.
all pro fullback too.
He had an all pro fullback too. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, you got plenty of talent. So, 49ers throwback says, do you think McGlinchey gets extended with the 49ers? Gosh, I hope not. That dude is not good. I'm sorry. And yeah, listen,
Their
Mike
solution.
McGlinchey, I don't want to be out of character. I don't want to say too much negative about a player. He's good enough to play in the league, but I don't want him starting for the 49ers going forward. That would be the preference. The tough part is you don't have a lot of draft picks, so maybe, but I hope not. What is your thoughts on the Nets firing Nash? That's an interesting question for a 49er show. I love Steve Nash as a player, one of my favorite players of all time to watch. I think we could kind of see it coming, though. For some reason, those guys for the Nets franchise did not want him there. They talked about it in the offseason. It's really weird for a guy that was there because the players picked him, and then a year or two later they want out because the players don't want him there for whatever reason. I don't know, man. That was a weird situation, but they got their wish. Let's see who they bring in. Sounds like Ime Udoka might be an option there. That's kind of crazy in itself. So we'll see how it is. Twisted Clown says it only took an all-pro roster to fix this offense. Yeah, I mean that's it, right? Like that's again, I don't know a team that has more. Just remove the quarterback position. What team has more talent than the San Francisco 49ers on offense? I would love to hear it. Like for sure, you look at top to bottom. You give me a team that has more talent than the 49ers, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know that team exists. So maybe the Dolphins, maybe, I guess. But even then, I don't know. I don't think there's a team that clearly has more
There's
offensive
four.
weapons than Jimmy Garoppolo and Shanahan have to deal with.
Nobody has more, but there's some teams with comparable, right? I think the Eagles are up there with all their talent. Tampa Bay, you would say, has a lot of talent there. Miami, like you said, and then I'd put the 49ers there as well.
I mean, you got legitimately 5 all-pro players on that offense. I don't.
The Eagles will. Eagles will too. They're just young guys. I think AJ Brown will be an all-pro this season. I think Miles Sanders will be an all-pro this season. Dallas Goedert.
No. You're talking Pro Bowl. All pro is like you get picked. There's 2 of you in the league that are like the elite of the elite. So I'm not saying Pro Bowl players. I'm saying all pro. There's 2 receivers in the league that can get picked for that. Debo fits that mold. He did last year. There's 2 running backs in the whole league that get picked for it. Christian McCaffrey's been that guy. We got the best left tackle in the game. Kittle's been an all pro. I mean, dude, they have an all pro use check. Obviously, they have them at every single level. Like Pro Bowl, yes, there's a lot of teams that have a lot of Pro Bowl caliber players, but all pro is the elite of the elite of the elite. And the 49ers, they've got them in a plenty. No team's got them like that. Okay, let's talk about. I loved your stat, and I want you to bring it up again because I think this stat's super important. When you threw this out, I was like, okay, this bodes really well because not only can CMC fix the offense potentially based off of what we saw on Sunday, but they've got an interesting matchup situation coming up for the second half of the season. Walk us through that stat one more time so we can make sure it hits home with everybody.
Yeah, so there's 2 things to look at as far as stat-wise for the 49ers. So clearly they're getting healthy, right? So a lot of players that are really impact players are going to be coming back off of the bye week to get really, really healthy. So that's one thing. And then the 49ers have the 4th easiest schedule left, but more specifically, the defenses that they're playing. 7 out of the 9 games, they're going to be going up against defenses
Mm.
that are in the bottom 10 as far as defensive points allowed. So these are teams that allow a lot of points. These are defenses that aren't known for shutting offenses down.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be kind of like a perfect storm where the 49ers are getting healthy, plus they're going to be playing a level of competition that they clearly should be outmatching based off of all the talent that you just mentioned. So this could be kind of similar to last season where the 49ers get hot at the right time with a lot of confidence going into that playoff run. And then when you're in the playoffs playing that type of way with that type of confidence, anything could happen.
There's a first half stat that you threw out as well that really kind of puts that together. They've scored, was it 30 points in 3 games or 25 plus points in 3 games, and they played 2 of the 3 were against teams similar to what you're talking about. What was that
So
first
that
half stat?
total scores. That wasn't a first half thing.
Okay.
So those were the 3
I mean,
games.
first half of the season. I'm sorry, first half of
Yeah,
the
first
season.
half of the
Yeah.
season. Yeah. So the first half of the season, they put up 27 or more points 3
Okay.
times, and two out of those 3 teams were in the bottom 10 in scoring. So
Okay.
now the next 7 out of 9 are going to be bottom 10 in scoring. So it, like I said, the offense could be looking really, really good as far as being able to put up 27 plus points. Plus, the defense is going to get healthier. Armstead's supposed to come back, which I think people are realizing how important Armstead is for this defense. You know, obviously Debo has I mean, Bosa hasn't had the same type of success since Armstead has been out. So I think he's going to play a big role. Verrett's supposed to be coming in, so that should help out. And then obviously Jimmy Ward should be healthier, and everybody should just be healthier. So you talk about an offense that could put up 27 plus points with the way this defense can play. Jesse, we're talking about one of the most dangerous teams in the league going into the second half of the season.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. The health is big. I love that stat. That's diving deep. And when you threw that out, I'm like, okay, you got to talk about that on the show because I think it's important when you pair that with what we've seen in the first half of the season, saying that 2 of the 3 times they've eclipsed 27 points scored were against those such teams, and then they get 7 of those in the second half out of the
Mm-hmm.
9 games. I think we can start to expect. See, and this is what's going to happen. You're going to see a lot of points being put up probably because of that. And then people are going to see, told you, Kyle Shanahan, look, offensive genius, Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a top 10 quarterback in the league. He's taking us to the promised land. You already know what's about to happen. So
Right?
I love it. I do love it for the 49ers, but just remember, we said it here first on Last Second Sports. Twisted Clown wants to know. I think this is in direct response to the Nets question, which I do like. I don't mind talking a little bit of basketball, but wants to know my thoughts on cheeseburgers. Overrated. I'd say a little overrated. It just depends on where it's coming from. But, I think there are better foods out there. I think that for me, I'm a Mexican food guy. So you give me a good chili relleno, I'm down with that. Tamale, like that's where my palate's at. But you get a good cheeseburger. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'd say slightly overrated. That's me personally. Good question though. Very, very good question. On point and really on brand with your name as well. I gotta agree. Okay, so you talked about getting a lot of players back in the second half. And hopefully, if everything goes right, they're gonna come out of that bye week. They're gonna have Mitchell. They're gonna have Debo. They're gonna have Verrett. And they're gonna have Armstead. But out of all of those guys, who is the most important player that they need to get back out of all of them? If you could only choose one to ride with for the rest of the season and the rest were shut down for the rest of the year, who's the one player that you're tapping on the shoulder and saying, okay, you get to ride the rest of the season. We need you the most out of all those players that I just mentioned.
Arik Armstead, and I don't think was in close. Arik Armstead to me is the player that needs to come back because I think that the impact he has on this defense and this defensive line, which is the heart of this defense, and what he could do as far as stopping the run and what he does is put all of these players that have been getting a lot more reps back into their natural positions. So overall, the defensive line is going to be a lot more productive. To me, he takes pressure off of Bosa. So we're going to start seeing a jump in sacks for Bosa. I think he's going to take pressure off of Ebicom and Omenahu and guys like Jordan Willis is coming back. My guy, he should be back too. Like, I think he gives those guys the ability to play one-on-one because he's taking on the double teams in the interior. And so, especially with Kinlaw most likely gone or going to be playing sparingly, having a guy who is high level talent, top 15 at his position type talent there, I think is invaluable. And we've seen it, right? This defense hasn't looked the same against, we saw what this defense looked like against good offenses against Kansas City. We've seen, how much damage like a team like Atlanta was able to do with their running game and things like that. Ark Armstead immediately makes the team a lot better to be able to change that. So for me, even though you have like names like Debo and all that kind of stuff, to me, Armstead is the guy that we need back because this defensive line hasn't been as productive since he left.
Yeah. Before I get into that, there's some really funny comments that I have to get to. I was talking about how I like Mexican food and
Right.
chile rellenos and tamales and those types of things. Paul says Jesse be at Taco Bell 3 times a week.
That Mexican pizza, baby, that hits different.
But see, that's the thing is they don't have that anymore. So once you lost the double, they brought it back, but didn't it leave again?
September officially back on their menu, brother.
Oh, okay, but hold on a second. My understanding is they brought it back, and then they ran out of the ingredients. I don't know how. I thought all their ingredients were the same.
Permanent. In September, they made it permanent.
Oh, okay. Well, good for them. So they had 2 really good things at Taco Bell, especially if you're a little drunk and it's 2 a.m. You got the Mexican pizza, elite. I don't care what anybody says.
It is.
And you've got the double-decker taco, also elite. Neither one of them were on their menu item for the longest time. And the fact that I didn't know it was even back tells you I don't eat at Taco Bell anymore. I'm super disappointed. They lost me. But I will say this. When my dad was like super broke and had just gotten custody of me when I was a kid, we definitely ate at Taco Bell pretty frequently because back then, very, very inexpensive. But I do want to address Hung Miao, which elite name, by the way. You dumb Niner fans are the same idiots saying the Bears, Broncos, and Falcons. Let's take heed. Let's take notice. Was easy. You beat the crappy Rams. I never seen so many stupid fans that doesn't understand the NFL. Sir, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but when you're going to call people stupid and idiots, you might want to type this out properly. So let's reread it the way that it should probably be written. You dumb Niner fans are the same idiots saying the Bears, Broncos, and Falcons, past tense, we already played them, were easy. You beat the crappy Rams. I have never seen so many stupid fans that don't understand the NFL. Fixed it for you. Good effort. You played yourself. Okay. Let's see if we missed any super chats. Twisted Clown says, Kyle, easy second half. Watch me keep you on edge. Is that like equivalent to hold my beer? I got to say it. I love it. Also says Kyle's secret handle is Hung Miao. Nice. See, Stevo's okay. You guys are educating me. It sounds like it's back. Enchiritos. Wow, that's one right there. Where's that at? Hold on. Somebody that's an old school. See, that's that you're a Taco Bell connoisseur. Dude, I'm telling you. That's elite. That's an elite comment. Okay. So I agree with you, by the way. It's Armstead and it's not close. And I'm not going to get into all the reasons why, because I think you laid that out beautifully. However, I think that does parlay into the next topic really well. The guy that we did not say, surprisingly enough, is an all pro caliber wide receiver. He is a guy who was the heart and soul of this offense last year. I believe probably the main reason why the 49ers made it to the playoffs. This is a guy that you saw leave it all on the field multiple times last year. My favorite player right now in the NFL, Mr. Debo Samuel. But we just saw this offense tick without him. Obviously, we know that Debo Samuel added to this offense, adds value to the offense. But have they devalued what Debo means to this team by trading for Christian McCaffrey, in your opinion?
Devalued. So to answer that question, devalued means, is he not as important? Like, is he not as valuable? I think that the answer is yes, but it's not a knock. And what I mean by that is, where did what made Debo valuable last season that isn't needed this season, right? They moved him to a position that they were getting no consistency at. They were getting no explosion at, which was the running back position. They moved him back to that wide back position, and then that helped the offense go because of how important being able to get explosive plays out of Kyle Shanahan's running game is to this offense having success. So the reason why he was so valuable is, even though he wasn't a running back, they could move him back into that position and still be able to get explosive plays due to his talent level of being able to do both. Well, now they're not going to need that from him, right? So they don't need that from him because they have CMC back there that could get that explosion that they were needing Debo to do because they couldn't get it out of the rest of their running backs. Debo's still going to be extremely important to this offense, but now he's going to just be a pure wide receiver, which is great because I think he's still going to be able to have a lot of success there. We have the prototypical wide receiver on the other side, and Brandon Ayuk running all of the route tree and being able to get open at the mid and deep level of the offense. And then you have Debo, which is going to be the mid to underneath type guy that gets all those yak yards. It's going to be extremely important. He's going to be an extremely important asset to the team and play a big role in certain games. But to answer your question directly, is he devalued? Only because they don't need him back there anymore. And I don't think we're going to see him back there as much. So it's kind of like a loaded question. Yeah, it's devalued, but he's still extremely valuable to the team.
Dang, Matthew, you got blocked on a show? What the heck were you getting into? I feel like you're one of the more respectful people in this chat on a regular basis. I don't even know how that happens, man. That's I'd hit up Larry on Twitter. I bet you he'll get you unblocked. That's wild. That one's wild. Val says Jess CMC will help out Trey and develop next year guaranteed. Yeah, I agree with that. Man, this is a tough question for me because I know what Debo brings to this football team. I know how important he is to this football team. I do think the answer to this, though, is yes. They have to a certain extent because, I mean, let's just call it how I see it. For everything that I love about Debo Samuel, for as great as I think he is, Christian McCaffrey is probably the better offensive weapon. He just is. For everything that Debo did last year, Christian McCaffrey's done that and better. He was 1,000-yard receiver and 1,000-yard rusher in a season. Insane when you think about that. That is not taken lightly. This is a guy who, in his first full game with the 49ers, technically Kansas City was, but really this was it. I mean, that was on 2 days, a day and a half of getting to know this team. His first full game had a hat trick, did something that hadn't been done since LT, and I think had only been done around 11 times in the AFL, NFL history. He's special. And Debo is too. But if I had to choose one for the next 2 or 3 years, probably choosing Christian McCaffrey. So naturally, Debo was the most important offensive player to this team. And by making the trade, I think he goes to that number 2 position. And so because of that, yes, he is devalued by the definition of being devalued, but that doesn't mean he's not important. Those are two very, very different things. Debo Samuel is extremely important to this offense. Debo Samuel with Christian McCaffrey is extremely important to this offense. And I think they are extremely important to each other. When Debo wasn't there, you saw how many times Christian McCaffrey had to touch the ball. What did he get? 26, 27 touches if you include the pass? That's a lot. I don't want him touching the ball that much. When Christian McCaffrey's not there, we saw how often Debo had to touch the football, especially down the stretch of last season. Way too much. Running between tackles. I don't want to see that from Debo Samuel. So when you pair them together, they get to pull from each other just enough to where I think that they can keep each other healthy, not only through this season, but long term. I mean, you're talking about 2 players that are 26 years old, 2 players that bring so much to the table, and they do a lot of similar things, which means they really can help each other out. So,
and both of them are under contract with the 49ers for the next 3 years. So
exactly. Very, very important. So I would say by definition, yes, the 49ers have devalued Debo by making that trade for CMC, but is his importance not still skyrocketing? I would say the answer to that is, of course, his importance is still skyrocketing. Keith says, I think the era, I don't know, will be a serious choice. Oh, there will be. Okay. I think there will be a serious choice between Debo and Ayuk in a year or 2. We won't be able to keep both. Thoughts? I completely agree with you. Completely agree with you. And if Ayuk keeps doing what he's doing and Debo's entering, say, the final year of his contract at a high number, chances are Debo's the guy that they would move on from. I think that just makes sense. At that point, he'd be closer to 30. Ayuk would be younger, but it'll be a couple years before they have to cross that bridge for sure. But certainly, yes. I think that eventually will become something that they'll have to figure out, and we'll see how it plays out. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe something crazy happens. Maybe they somehow free up a lot of money, but overall, I think that's a thought that most likely will come to fruition. Gammon says, opportunity missed. Instead of being catty with Hung Meow, you should have acknowledged his overall football acumen by asking him to subscribe. Here's what's funny, Gammon. I have the subscribe only chat on, which means if you are commenting, you are automatically subscribed. I am one step ahead of Mr. Hung Meow already. Now, that doesn't mean he can't unsubscribe after he got cooked, which I would expect him to do, because most people that come into a chat and talk a lot of trash probably aren't really about it the way that they act the way that they are. So for me, I'm saying he's probably unsubscribed, but chances are he still may be subscribed. So I won the war before it even started, my friend. All right. Let's see. Thought I had one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pfft. Bro, that's it. That's it. That's the show. Suneil, my guy, thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate it as always. Make sure you subscribe to Suneil. His link is in the chat. Mr. Carmen San Diego, we'll see where he's at next week. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for contributing. Thank you so much. Negative or positive, appreciate you for sticking around. And I loved the Taco Bell chatter. I think it was great. Appreciate y'all. Much love. I'll be back tomorrow with Grant. Peace.